It's my pleasure to introduce my old friend, co-worker, and colleague of long 21 years. Where are you, Bruce? Bruce Lyon. I met Bruce in 1990 when he and many other of the, well, I call them the younger generation, by comparison, were just beginning their really strong teaching work. And for Bruce, it has gone on. He's always been a man of independence and will. And he's particularly interested in the shambolic approach, the disciplines of the will. He's written 5 books here, as you can read, Mercury, Agni, Group Initiation, Working with the Will, Occult Cosmology. He's a brilliant thinker. And I never know what he's going to do next. So I always watch and wait. Whatever it is, he'll be forging his own path. And I'm sure that we will be very interested to know what's the cutting edge now. Bruce.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. And I'd just like to begin by honoring the field that I'm going to be talking into. The field that's been prepared by all the people who have created this space, all the presenters that have come before, and you. Because you already know everything that I'm going to tell you. And you already are something way more beautiful and sacred than anything that can be contained in a concept or a thought. So I invite you to bring that, what was it Blavatsky said, the living God and the divine animal present. And your presence helps me with my presence and what I'm going to deliver to you. And so this is for you. On the way here, those bushes, out there, they've got those beautiful 5-pointed flowers. A 4-pointed one. So, here you go. So I'd also like to begin with an image. I've just been in Japan. I was there about a week after the tsunami. And I really booked my ticket beforehand. And so when the airline phoned me and said, the radiation is whatever, we're canceling the flight. And so I checked in my heart and was like, no, I want to go. So there was something about flying towards that, moving towards that cry, that entering into that field and feeling the cry of humanity for God, for love, And there was one lasting image from that, which was, what it was like. You saw the TV thing, so it was just this destruction. It was just like matchstick everywhere. And there was a picture of a woman, she was maybe 75, 80, and she was standing in front of this destruction, tears pouring down her face, and she bowed. And in that bow was surrender, acquiescence, respect, grief. But she was also accepting that this is what is. And so as we move into 2025, as people have talked about in this whole period, ahead of us there is this time where life is going to drive us to, as Otto Schremer said, to be able to just be in the unknown and make those choices that we have to make out of a combination of intuition, but also spiritual instinct. And that's when intuition comes all the way down to the body and it enrolls the instinctual life of the body too. So that we just act. I think DK has said during the Second World War, there were more opportunities for people to take initiation than any other time on the planet because it was immediate. When someone's coming over a bunker with a gun and you have a friend next to you and you have a moment to choose. You can't go into meditation and see what the master says, make an alignment or open page 343 of the Blue Books. You must act. And that action is going to reveal where your center is. That action is going to reveal to you what is the core of your being and where does it rest. And when it's called, where will it move to? And of course, the beautiful thing is that having done this work of building the antikrana and creating these links in consciousness, when we are called upon, then often we step up in ways that are far beyond what we thought we might, because behind consciousness is life. So I want to talk a little bit today about life. What is this life that is breaking through everywhere. It's like the Shambhala impact in 2000, following through from the earlier impacts last century, then initiated this cycle of 49 years from 2001, the Great Decision. And in my perception, the 60-year initiates chose the path to Sirius, the fourth path, and therefore the energy of freedom. And therefore that energy is going to be coming in majorly through the American soul. So this is this wonderful opportunity of 49 years for America to step up and deliver the freedom that is at the core note of the Aquarian soul of America. But for humanity as a whole, this thing of freedom, this connection to the life principle, 2025 is the center of that 49. Just like the midpoint of the Buddha plane is the center of the 49 planes. And the core of the center allows us to access life. It's not because life only lives at the center. Life is everywhere, but life can be found there. So the first thing I want to say about life is not just another subtle state or stage of consciousness. Okay, we're used to consciousness where these spheres go up forever and ever, and planetary logos, solar logos, and blah, blah. All wonderful, all consciousness. Okay, it's much easier to access life in the more subtle states and stages. Once we get to the Buddhic plane, we have this capacity to access life through the center because it's residing at the center. But life is at the center of every state and stage and form and time. Life is sitting right there at the center, and that life is bursting out. So you can't release the Shambhala force just up, on some plane. It's everywhere. And so it's almost like a whole way of working with spirituality, with all these spiritual traditions which have all these places in consciousness where you enter into, step by step through the grades and the initiations. And then in the Holy of Holies, we will tie a rope around you, and one day a year, Yom Kippur, or whatever it is you go in, and the rope, so if you're burned to a crisp, they can pull your body out. Right now in the middle is life. And the thing is that life is not so much just drawing us in towards it. Now it's emerging. It's tearing the veil of the temple from the inside and coming out. And it's coming out through all our traditions. And this is what we call synthesis, because the life that is pouring through the heart of all our traditions is not about unity, not about everyone getting together to cooperate, but the recognition that we are the same. That now it's just this one life at the core, and this life is emergent. So one of the things that I've been doing in my writing is talking about this life, the symbol for this life, because the last Renaissance was all about the sun, was all about the soul. Okay, so even the outer expression of that was the people who got burnt at the stake for starting to talk about the fact that the sun was at the center. It wasn't our personality at the center, it was the sun at the center. And it said that the Renaissance was created by 100 souls coming into incarnation 100 years ahead of their time. And the tension between who they were in their inner world and the world that they lived in generated this tremendous creativity. So who's coming in now in this new Renaissance? It's like, to me, there are many, many souls carrying what I call the seeds of darkness. And it's not a negative darkness, of ignorance. It's the darkness of divine darkness, the darkness of pure spirit, the darkness of life. And so this principle that's emerging as we go into this new Renaissance, for me, the symbol for the monad, it's no accident that in the year 2000 they confirmed the discovery of a black hole at the center of our galaxy. Okay, so we know that darkness is pure spirit. And we know, and we've studied in all this wonderful teaching that we've been given, the journey from Earth through the rays, through light, through the 7 rays, through the 7 constellations. And then we approach the monad. And the monad is the symbol of the unknown. Not only unknown, can't be known. Light doesn't go in or escape from a black hole. So the life principle is not about knowing more. It's about being. And in that being, light happens. It's a dark light that is at the core of light. And when that dark light begins to operate, it supernovas light. So it's Master Moria on the atomic plane, his ashram adding darkness to light so that the stars may shine. Adding darkness to light so that the stars may shine. So one of the ways that the soul accelerates its evolution, and we know those mystery schools are all about the flowering of the soul, the hothouse flowering of the soul. One of the ways is through fire, soul to soul, vocational arousal of the soul. The other way through life is operating through the jewel at the center of the soul and opening the soul from the inside. That's why there's this amazing opportunity on the planet. I think Nico says it could take the second, third, and fourth in one life. Because the opportunity for life is so powerfully emergent, it's possible, to use a cosmology analogy, to supernova. Because every sun has at the core that, like our sun has a diamond. During the lotus, our sun will collapse into an amazing diamond. But another sun, like Sirius B, will collapse into a black hole. So the black hole is already present in the heart of the sun. It's not only the thing that we all orbit this black hole, but the whole idea of a master is a master doesn't just hold you in his orbit, he awakens in you the very quality that you're orbiting. Okay, so a black hole awakens in a sun with a black hole. And so the burning of the causal body, when we get to that point after incarnations where we've accumulated in our causal body, we've gathered wisdom, then there comes the time for the out-breath, for the letting that out. And part of what's happening for disciples and initiates in the world is they're beginning to burn. And that burning is a solar burning, and it's the burning of the causal body. That's supernovaing, and that supernovaing has been accelerated by the darkness that's pouring in from the monad, which is, in this analogy, the black hole at the center of the galaxy. And so we have 2012 in popular culture, the whole alignment between the solar plane and the galactic plane. We have this beginning to come in this new story. And this new story is affecting us in our groups too, because our story is a solar story. And at the center of the group, you have the Sun King. You have the teacher, you have the president, you have the person who knows the answers, who is radiating their light and love to the planets which are circling, and maybe they're going to become suns themselves one day. This is the old mystery school, which was all about the soul, which is now becoming exoteric. Everybody wants to be a sun. Facebook, it's like everybody wants to be a star. So that the next generation aren't going to buy into the old solar models. They already want the model where they're recognized as a star, already a star. I remember the first time I went to a TS and was like, oh no, you could never go there because you have to do all this work. Beforehand, it took me 10 years to figure out I already was a fucking soul. And I knew it. But I had to unlearn 10 years of going through that process. And there's now more generations coming in, and they are already more advanced, and there's teaching them. So the teaching can't be, read these 24 books, and at the end of that, I'll get my star, and I'll be able to come into my ashram. That won't work. What works is to have our generation who didn't get that knowledge and got that wisdom to begin to learn it and deliver it in ways that are precisely needed for the people at the time and the place that they're at. So that's what the young people need now. They want to get on the internet to master Google, and they need to be in that place where they know the bit information that they need as a soul to take their next step. They don't need to accumulate a vast body, but because their drive, the life that's in them, is calling them into action. And that action requires wisdom, the wisdom that's been developed by the generation before, but it requires it precisely delivered at the time it's needed. So, how do I then start telling this new story where what's at the center that we all orbit is this unknown mystery? How do groups begin to gather? How do our political process begin to gather around the mystery? And that those who are leading are not those who know the answers, but the ones who can sit in the not knowing. They can sit in the being and trust the being to deliver the knowing when the knowing is needed. It's a different model, and it's breaking through everywhere around the world. So because cosmology is so important to the way we have a civilization, It's a core story. The story that we tell ourselves then gets pushed out into the civilization. It's really important to have a cosmology that's based on what really works. So the other thing that I read about the black hole is lightning, because it's got to do with electric fire, right? It's got to do with the fire of being. Now we have 14 billion lightning strikes a day on this planet, and we still don't really know how it happens. Because actually the charge between clouds and Earth and so on is not enough to cut through the air. But what they're beginning to understand is that gamma rays from the black hole that goes through everything are ionizing the air between the cloud and Earth. And it's down that line that lightning runs. Okay, so as we begin to work with the life principle, we start to become electrified. And that electrification of the body is something that produces and is needed for what I call the temple of power. So I'm going to give you a couple of little stories from my life in the last 7 years, and this one is about how I got electrified by a black hole. So as I started getting interested in black holes, I was doing a project that many of you know at Hyden. We were trying to ground a school. And I felt like I was cooperating with the divine will. I wasn't surrendered to it. We were kind of co-creating. We were co-creating. And I was not in the field, so I knew what I was doing, right? So, and of course it was all magical and it was all wonderful and working. And I got to that point where having done all to stand became having done all to kneel, became having done all to lie prostrate on the floor in the morning serving, and not knowing, how the next thing was going to happen. And I really knew this year where three things happened to me. One was this surrendering to the fact that what I knew the divine will to be and what life actually was might have some slight difference. The second was that I began to focus on the black hole, and I spent a year riding and sleeping with the black hole instead of the sun. Okay, which is I really recommend if anyone wants to kind of align with that energy. So I rode and sat with the black hole, and then at the same time, I tattooed a lightning bolt on my chest. And the reason I did that is because lightning was always my symbol. As a child, whenever I saw a lightning storm, I'd get these three balls spinning here like the Rolex symbol, and I always felt like lightning was my symbol. And so that great cry that year where I realized I'd burned up all my resources. I'd used everything I had nothing left, but I knew I wanted to live. So I said, right, it's time to bring this to the physical plane. Well, within a week I had a heart attack. And I don't call it a heart attack, it was more like a heart awakening, it was a heart electrification. And at the time when I was having it, I was playing tennis. And I could feel it because I made this invocation. And I could feel this energy coming in, and I could feel in my being that my response to that was, yes, more life. And so I even finished the game of tennis before I collapsed. And we won, by the way. And then when I was going to the hospital and they were taking me into the emergency room to check her out, it was the Pisces full moon, right on the Pisces full moon. And I'm an astrologer, I know what that means. So I'm like, okay, maybe this is my exit. How do I feel about that? And the experience was, I don't care about life and death. I want to live. I want to live. And of course, when they checked me out, there was nothing wrong with my heart. What it was this like defibrillator, of electricity that was going through my system, and that my heart was responding to that. And so from that day on, I feel like I was starting to build the temple of power, that my invocation for that lightning to hit the physical plane is the beginning of having the body transmit the will. Okay, and when the body begins to transmit the will through it, then light and love adds power. And so one of the things I say about the difference between esoteric and occult is esoteric has got a lot to do with the inner world. Okay, we're developing the inner world, esoteric versus exoteric. But occult is where the esoteric and exoteric are the same. They overlap. There isn't an inner and an outer. And so the access point for life is always at that point at the center. where we move through the fourth dimension. So you might imagine just the being as a body, but we can do it at the core of the body as well, which is that we can move up. We can use our word of power and build our antakarana and contact the wonderful deities and beings that live in these inner worlds. We can move out. We can move right into our form, into our action world. We can move left into our relationships. We can move back into the field or forward into the unique contribution that we have to make. But there's a seventh direction ruled by the fourth ray, which is to sit in the center and not move. And that's why it requires the will. To not move our consciousness up, down, left, right, forward, back, to rest. And in that resting, to inquire into, who is this that's looking? Who is this consciousness that can do these things, that can move in these directions? And if we hold that long enough, we collapse. Because there's only one looking. And it isn't consciousness, it's life that's looking out of each pupil. And each place in consciousness is a doorway directly into life. The trouble is it takes our consciousness normally to develop to a certain stage before we begin to access this. But once we access it, it can be accessed at any time. So you're having an emotional crisis, you don't need to get up to the higher planes to deal with it because life is present right there. As long as there's consciousness, and as long as that consciousness knows the door into life, then life is present right there. And that life is what transforms things. The other thing about it is that if you can combine the electric fire, which is the life, the solar fire, and the fire by friction, is what the Tibetan calls this fourth quality, this mysterious fourth quality. To me, what this fourth quality is the presence of divinity. Will, love, and intelligence are attributes of divinity. But it's the presence of divinity, this fourth quality, that we are. We are this presence of divinity. And we are the ones who have come. And of course, there are bigger and better ones of us behind us. But it's our presence that will change the world. And it won't change the world so much on the outside as it will change our perception of the world, because we begin to realize that heaven is already here, that everything is already perfect. And like that Japanese woman, we bow to the perfection that is hidden but inherent in every moment and in every place and every time. And that presence of divinity is so powerful, it's the trumpet that brings down the old civilization, the walls of Jericho. You know, because the great cry of the human soul on the cross, the great cry of Jesus on the cross was, my God, why hast thou abandoned me? So deep down, deep down at the core of our consciousness, we're all the same story. We are Christ's come to earth. And we're rejected and we go to the Father and we come back. And at that point where we feel most abandoned, of course the external God must abandon us in order for us to realize we are God. The separation between us and God must be dissolved. And it's only going to be dissolved in life. So wherever we are in that process, and life really starts to make its impact felt between the second and fourth degree, the utilization of life to bring forth the presence of divinity, whether that's in our individual world, whether it's in our group world, or whether it's our service world, the bringing forth of the presence is the saving force. That's what saves everything. And then the awakening of the other kingdoms, the life of the other kingdoms through humanity, through the radiation of humanity. In Japan, we had, Egypt is the first ray school, revolution, New Zealand, seventh ray school, earthquake. Japan, a threefold disaster. Earthquake, body, tsunami, emotions, Atlantis, and radiation. So, and the fourth school. Okay, so this is the process going on as the will is hitting the earth. It's registering through three major chakras, the crown and the base and the heart. That's where the life principle is making itself felt. And so responding to that life principle is what allows us to fully incarnate. Because as Christ, the Christ returning to earth, we have to return because we are the Christ. And of course, there are greater Christs coming, but each of us as a soul has to return to earth. And that means to anchor ourselves in our earth, and this is our earth. So I'm going to tell you one more story, which is the Neptune balance to Uranus. So after this Uranian experience, I went and built a house in the shape of Uranus on a remote island in New Zealand, where I lived and wrote my cosmology books. And then one day I had a visitor, a female master. What do we call those? Because they're not really mistresses. It's a little bit intimate, don't you think?
Mistresses.
What's that? Mastresses, that'll do. Okay, so a female master turned up in my inner and outer world, and it was a 55-foot whale. 2 years before, I'd taken my children to swim with the humpbacks in Tonga, and whales don't often come to the Bab Islands unless in 1 and 2 years. But my daughter got pregnant with the whales when we were out, I don't know with the whales, but when we were with the whales. And my granddaughter was with me, and 2 whales came into my house and parked right in front of me. And so we sat there for an hour or so, and then I swam out. And it was a mother who had brought her calf, and she brought her to meet me, is in my reality. So as I swam out, she pulled away and she let the calf come over. And so we just lay together for maybe 5 to 10 minutes. And a transmission occurred, a beautiful transmission, that was about sharing consciousness. And then the mother came back, and she rose beneath us, and we just both parted off her bow. And here's the transmission: is that my experience when we swapped consciousness for a little bit was the whales listen with their whole body. That they don't only hear the music of the oceans, but they hear the music of the waters of space. And their whole body is an ear. And when that vibration gets to a certain level, they can't help but sing. So just as Uranus was teaching me about lightning in the black hole, this whale came to teach me about vibration and resonance, and how if we can get free as a soul from our reliance on the earth, take refuge in spirit, the next step is to surrender back to the earth, to fully surrender, to bring that which we are as souls to earth. This exquisite experience of the whale in full surrender, in just listening to cosmos through her whole body, meant that for the next 2 weeks to a month, my body was shaking regularly every day. She gave me Shaktipat from the whale, it's like, you. And so that experience of fully surrendering as the soul to the body, there is a way through the body. We're not used to that in esoteric traditions. The body's not a principle, body's the bottom, and they go all the way up, right? But there is a way through the body because life lives at the core of the body as well. At the core of every atom there is this rush light, this Anu light, which is the ecstasy body, the bliss body, that opens to the same place that the black hole opens. So the darkness in the body and the darkness of space, just as in a galaxy, the feminine principle holds the dark halo of matter, and the masculine principle holds the black hole. Everything is held in this divine darkness. So, I have 4 minutes left, and I wanted to show you a little something. It's a practical application of those 2 principles. One, electrification, being in charge, everyone in their own sovereignty. When someone is in charge, that means they're electrified. It's not like a position. I am in charge. It's like I am in charge. And the other thing is resonance. People finding each other through resonance. So this is a project for, that was a, where is it? Yeah. So that sound you can hear is the sound of the rings of Uranus. So this is a project, which is like a service project that was designed from people in the Shambhala School, but it's designed to demonstrate a new kind of networking for the Trans-Himalayan community. And so what it is a forum with nothing at the center, just the principle of life. And so you can see here that you have a map, so different groups and individuals can stick their information in about where they are and what they're doing. There's a place for checking everyone's astrology, because everyone puts in their rays and their astrology, so you can check for secondary souls with Taurus rising, maybe you want to connect with people around the world. You can connect on need and demand. So a part of it is a bank of spirit. And the idea of the bank of spirit is that as money begins to liberate, it's about letting ourselves see where the money is. Instead of the money going to a central authority which decides where it should go, people are just giving the money to themselves, to their own soul, and letting other people know how much money there is. And other people who have needs are saying what those needs are, so the heart is deciding where the flows go, no central body. The other thing that's here is a library. So people are uploading I don't know how this is working on here now, but okay, there's the library. So different languages, and then the languages have there's a search engine, so you can search all the different major writers and just get the stuff that you want. There are communities, there are Facebook-like communities where people can make their own connections with other people in the esoteric field without anybody controlling that process, just organically providing a way to connect and let resonance and the fact that we're all circulating around the life principle operate. So that is www.group24.org. Go and check out and have a look. I don't have time to run through it all now with you, but it's one of those initiatives which are part of the new, this is one so you can do conferences, webinars and so on it. It's one of those ideas for how do we use this modern technology to be in touch with each other and allow this new organizing principle of the life principle to begin to guide us, rather than shared visions and shared ideas and shared concepts, to just let life direct us and help us find the people around the world that we need to connect with, and we don't even really know why we need to connect with them until we do. So what I want to leave you with, I'd like to leave you with this idea that there is a really unique opportunity. I'm going to give you a spiritual opportunity here, and that is because where we are in the world is so amazing. There's a universe, we're in a 14 billion year or 311 if you go esoteric opportunity. The consciousness is becoming awakening to itself right at the exact moment that it could not make it. And so because of that extreme situation, it's said that it's the extremity of the soul and service that calls forth the monad. So there's an incredible opportunity with the Shambhala force and the crisis on the planet to really get accelerated, if that's what you want. If we want to be accelerated, then, all we really have to do is use the thing that we have that is unique, and that is our free will. And our free will as a divine being, as a living God, and giving our consent to have life accelerate us, awaken us, move us, and just rest in not knowing and letting that happen, there's a unique opportunity for that right at this time. And so the consent for life, the consent for divine darkness to enter and accelerate our supernova as a soul is upon us. Thank you very much.